Europe's largest glacier. We begin, though, in the small town of Markneukirchen on the eastern border of Germany with the Czech Republic. The region there is famous for making musical instruments. Markneukirchen itself is the home of violin making in this country, and 15 violin makers there just got together and built a very special instrument, one that's earned them a place in the Guinness Book of World Records by taking the violin to the next level.
A scroll, 4 strings, a bow, sheet music, and a musician. But this violin is of unusual dimensions. It stands more than 4 meters tall. And it takes 2 violinists to work the bow, which is more than 5 meters long. It's the brainchild of violin maker Jostedal from Markneukirchen, now home to the largest playable violin in the world.
The idea is actually pretty old. But last year, 2010, Markneukirchen had a big celebration, and I marked my 25 years as a self-employed master luthier. So all that together inspired me to convince a few colleagues to help me make this large instrument and bow.
It took more than 1,700 hours to craft the giant violin. 15 luthiers, bow makers, and string makers worked on the various parts. Although this giant violin is 7 times the size of a normal one, it's proportioned exactly like its smaller cousins. So it's still a proper violin.
It was based on this model by Johann Georg Schoenfelder, and the basis for the size was this huge poster. There were some really exciting moments, like when all the parts of the sound box were finally glued together, and then when it was strung. We wondered if what we built would even hold, or would something break? Would the strings snap? It was very exciting.
The violin is 3 octaves lower than a normal-sized instrument. Leipzig-based composer Stefan König has written music especially for it, the Rhapsody for Giant Violin and Orchestra. The sheet music is also huge. The bow alone weighs some 15 kilograms. Playing music on it requires coordination and strength.
You have to exert a lot more strength the whole time than with a normal violin, where you just have to press down a little bit on the strings, which are considerably thinner. This is a lot more work for the fingers.
The dimensions are simply totally different than with a normal violin. And we need to have the small sheet music on the bow, because we're sometimes 5 or 6 meters away from the large sheet music on the floor and can't really read it.
Markneukirchen has a long history of instrument making. The sale of musical instruments even made the town the richest in Germany for a time, during the 1920s. Markneukirchen is considered a cradle of violin making. Germany's first Luthiers' Guild was founded here in 1677. The legacy of craftsmanship is still obvious today, and instruments from the Vogtland region are sold worldwide. When the giant violin isn't being played, it's on display at the town's Museum of Musical Instruments. Transporting the instrument is a logistical challenge. At 4.27 meters, it weighs more than 130 kilograms. It takes at least 7 people to transport and set up the giant violin. And thanks to Carola Schlegel, the giant violin is getting a place in the Guinness Book of World Records.
We were really happy and proud to be included in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's another achievement. And then, of course, there was the honor of being invited to London. There are 4,000 world records in the book, but only 5 were invited to the presentation in London. So that was like winning the lottery. Es war also fast der Sechser im Lotto, der uns dort ereilt hat.
Now the violin is getting a bit of a rest. Its next big appearance will be in celebrations to ring, or rather string, in the new year.
Amazing that they got that violin all the way to London and back. Modern Germany is a multicultural country in which 1/5 of the population has migrant roots. This includes over 3 million people of Turkish descent. Most of the younger generation of Turkish Germans were born here, but their parents or grandparents came here to work during the West German economic miracle of the 1960s and then stayed. Here we meet 2 young German-Turkish fashion designers whose creations are inspired by both cultures.
Merhaba, benim adım Cimen Bahri ve ben Berlin'de doğdum ve büyüdüm. Hello,
I'm Cimen Bahri. I was born and raised in Berlin.
Merhaba, benim adım Derya Issever. Ben Berlin'de doğdum ve büyüdüm.
Hello, I'm Derya Issever. I was born and raised in Berlin.
Cimen Bahri and Derya Issever got to know each other while studying in Berlin. In 2010, the freshly graduated fashion designers founded their own label, Issever Bahri. Their Turkish roots are a source of inspiration. Their current autumn-winter collection includes simple, understated cuts and coarsely crocheted pullovers. It was inspired by the first generation of Turkish guest workers. Cimen's and Derya's families hardly ever discussed the topic of guest workers.
Of course, we weren't interested solely in our own past. We did general research on what the first generation of guest workers looked like, especially their work clothes. That was a great inspiration for us. Workers in Turkey used to go to work in high-necked 3-piece suits. But they abandoned this look in Germany and traded it in for these overalls. They're typical work clothes that everyone is familiar with. And this outfit plays on that. This here is the turtleneck in fine silk. We wanted to convey a high-necked look. Our shirts are always buttoned up to the top button, which is a special one usually, a glass button.
Working on the collection made the 2 designers more aware of their heritage.
We've known each other since 2002, and we've never talked about this topic. Like, how do you feel about being Turkish?
Actually, in this respect, we don't really make it an issue. We don't feel completely German nor completely Turkish. We don't really think about it at all.
Cimen Bahri's mother comes to their studio in Berlin's Kreuzberg district every day. She encouraged the 2 designers from the beginning. Issever Bahri has lived in Berlin for more than 30 years and works in a hospital. Her closest friends are of Turkish descent.
I feel Turkish. We speak Turkish. And we usually cook and eat Turkish food.
Issever Bahri came to Berlin in 1980. Her husband had come in 1971 to work in a textile factory. Cimen and her sisters grew up in both cultures. Everything at home was Turkish. Most of their friends were German.
Things are really quite mixed with me. I got married last year, for example, and my husband is German. We have everything now. We celebrate Bayram with my family, and we celebrate Christmas with the other family.
Derya Issever is already 3rd generation in Germany. Her grandparents were among the first guest workers and brought along Derya's mother. Her father came later. Derya grew up in a district with few foreign residents.
We speak a mixture of German and Turkish. It just sort of developed that way. We speak a lot of Turkish, but also a lot of German. And sentences with words from both languages.
Traditional Turkish crochet plays a big role in their designs. Issever Bahri does the crocheting. Derya, Issever and Cimen Bahri combine the traditional technique with modern flair, and the result is successful. Their first collection stood out with black leather crochet incorporated into simple cuts. It won them the 2010 Young Designers Award at a fashion fair in Berlin.
The cultural mixture in our collections was important to us from the beginning because we wanted to do something with handcrafting. We wanted to integrate handicraft into the collection. In our first collection, we rediscovered crocheting using leather.
They both grew up with crochet doilies and have used them as detailing in their spring-summer collection. For the first time, they're also using oya, the finest crocheted lace and flowers crocheted from silk, an old Turkish handicraft. They commissioned the production of the flowers in Turkey. They've shown their collection in Paris and Istanbul. With designs that pay tribute to their Turkish roots, Cimen Bahri and Derya Issever are making a name for themselves in the international fashion scene.
A new kind of street art now called Zebrating. It's named after the striped animal. This is because the artists paint pictures onto striped surfaces like fences or railings. At first, you don't notice it as you're walking along, but at a particular point, a picture appears. Then as you move on, it disappears. We caught up with the two artists from here in Germany who've been zebrating on the streets.
You have to look closely. And if you're not in the right spot, the picture vanishes, as though it had never been there. It's the brainchild of Johanna and Björn, who go by their first names only. If you're lucky, you might catch them at work in their hometown of Mannheim.
When we do our gluing during the day, sometimes the people come over to us from across the street, shouting and laughing. And they say, "Oh, I can finally see it." And people of every age like the pictures, people from every walk of life.
And not just street art fans, old ladies pushing their shopping carts like it too.
Johanna and Björn design the pictures, measure the size needed, print the pictures, and then cut them into strips. The idea is simple, but original.
When we were riding on the train, at some point we noticed that from a certain angle, guardrail slats appear as a single surface.
And we realized that it's a suitable surface for street art, one that's so far been overlooked. That was in winter, and everything was gray. And we thought, hey, why not add color and make a contribution to our surroundings?
The artist duo have created their original works not only in Mannheim, but also in Berlin and in Weinheim in southern Germany. This is where they completed their first commissioned work, in front of a jazz cellar. Paper, glue, and then a ceiling lacquer. It's art not for posterity, but for fleeting moments.
You have to change your standpoint to see the entire picture, but that prompts viewers to move to where they can see it.
Mannheim still has plenty of unadorned bridge railings, fences, and lattices or bars. The city has signaled interest in promoting this kind of unobtrusive street art. But the two artists want to create works in other cities as well, with pictures in zebra-like stripes.
The Dutch interior designer Petra Blaisse is perhaps best known for her enormous curtains or drapes that hang in many modern buildings around the world. Actually, interior designer is perhaps a misnomer, as she specialises in connecting the interior with the exterior. And, of course, her drapes lie in the middle. Her latest project, though, involves no curtains. She's done the layout for a photography exhibition in the Netherlands.
This is Petra Blaisse. She designed these exhibition rooms in the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. She says it was no easy task.
First I came in and I thought, hey, the blue is not the blue we chose. And then the lighting guy said, yes, it is. It is, look. And he turned off the light, and of course it was the exact right color. So everything changes everything because of light.
Her concept highlights the interplay between light and color. A few weeks ago, there was still lots to do. The walls hadn't even been painted. Petra Blaisse started designing exhibition rooms in the early days of her career, in the 1970s. Usually she gets to create the design from scratch.
It is different in the sense that the architecture is already here. Normally, most of the time, we develop a building and the whole mentality of architecture together with the architects.
That was the case at the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. Petra Blaisse helped create both its interior and exterior design. Her partner was world-famous Dutch architect Rem Koolhaas. They've been working together for more than 3 decades. Blaisse is also known for her curtains, which are often seen in Koolhaas designs. She's turned what's usually seen as an accessory into a focal point, as here at the Casa da Musica Concert Hall in Porto, which opened in 2005. And at the Dutch Embassy in Berlin, built by Koolhaas in 2003.
The architect OMA and Rem Koolhaas are incredibly involved in all their projects, so he's the third in the discussion. He will, of course, look at it and say, okay, I like the idea, but I think the scale of the particles is too small or too large.
In her work, textiles become an integral part of the architecture.
Each curtain, usually we take like 4 or 5 years to develop them because they're all connected to the building. It's not just an afterthought like, okay, let's put a curtain in there, but it's part of the whole narrative of how you move through a building.
Blaisse founded her studio, Inside Outside, in 1991. She works on projects around the world, from China to the Middle East and Europe. Her staff includes creative people from all corners of the globe. The mood at her Amsterdam studio is laid back. Everyone eats lunch together. They design as a team. That's also true of their newest project, the 3 exhibition rooms at the Van Gogh Museum. Each space is different. The Snapshots exhibition includes both paintings and photographs from the same era, the late 19th century.
You see here the dramatic effect of these lights. So it gives you, in any case, the story of what photography is about, in essence.
Darkness and light.
We succeeded in doing everything almost everything we imagined, which is great.
Design that creates artistic space. The exhibition in Amsterdam shows how painters from the mid-19th century found inspiration in photography. Snapshots translated to the canvas. There was nothing but praise for the design.
I think it's fantastic.
Why?
It's, well, first of all, it seems to me very dynamic, very original, and it really makes the material very alive.
The exhibition opened in mid-October.
I think that the sense of intimacy, both in the subject matter and in the size, kind of gets a reaction in the design of the exhibition.
It's very open and it invites me really to step in and look at the photographs.
The design, yeah, I don't know, I don't think I have any special ideas, sorry.
Interior design that doesn't impose itself on your awareness. Possibly the best compliment of all for Petra Blaisse.
And from that light blue on the museum walls to a deeper and more natural blue in a glacier. Glaciers are like great frozen rivers of ice that are mostly found in regions of high snowfall in winter and cool temperatures in the summer. Norway is home to 1,700 glaciers, the biggest being the Jostedalsbreen, stretching over 100 kilometres from north to south. And as you'll see with our mountain guide, it's full of extraordinary formations and colours.
Its massive presence looms over the valley, the Jostedal Glacier. Its ice sheet is up to 500 meters thick. Many residents of the valley make a living from the glacier. Heidi Zimmermann, for example, from Switzerland. She organizes tours of the glacier, taking at least 10,000 tourists onto the ice every year. There's a safety check before they start climbing.
And of course I will check everything. Safety is very important. But I will not check before I put you in rope, because then I have control, that I can check everyone.
Heidi Zimmermann was the second woman in Switzerland to receive an Alpine Guide's license, a professional qualification that involves around 4 years of training. Heidi's done this tour over 100 times, but every hike is a new adventure.
On the glacier, conditions change on a daily basis. It moves up to 1 meter a day for starters. After a week, it looks totally different. It's always a challenge to find a new route.
The first tourists ascended the Jostedalsbreen more than 130 years ago. And safety precautions back then were almost the same as they are today. Everyone would be affixed to a rope to prevent falls. The climb is still reasonably easy at the foot of the glacier. After a 3-hour hike, Heidi and her group have arrived at a point where the terrain gets even more challenging, and the climbers have to dig in their crampons and pickaxes. Then Heidi decides it's too risky.
From here and farther up, it would be a problem to walk with beginners. I've passed through there, but it's very deep, crevasses, high ice towers, so you need to have 2 climbing axes. You climb up and then you have to climb down again.
The climb leads past crevasses up to 40 meters deep. A day trip on the Jostedal Glacier, including equipment, costs 40 euros. After a good 5 hours, the tour ends at the edge of the glacier, where 10,000 liters of water shoot out towards the valley.
It's a beautiful blue, and people are tempted to go up close. But if it collapses, it'll dam up the whole river, resulting in a huge tidal wave that can wash people away. As far as I'm concerned, this is the most dangerous spot on any glacier.
Heidi Zimmermann is constantly encountering tourists who venture out onto the glacier without a guide. She says they're risking their lives for a few snapshots. When the day's work is done and all the tourists have been brought safely back to the valley, Heidi takes off with her dogs. Into the mountains, of course.
There's a big difference whether you're responsible for others or you're just out climbing on your own. You don't have to take others into consideration. You can choose your companions. You can go on a proper tour, ones that are more difficult. I just love being in the mountains.
Zum liebsten bin ich nun mal in den Bergen.
And that's easy to understand while gazing at the mighty Jostedalsbreen, the largest glacier in mainland Europe.
The colours of the ice are amazing, aren't they? That rounds off the show this time. Thanks very much for watching, and bye-bye.